a period of 21 years, 1972 to 1992, about 21,000 autopsies revealed 39 cases of deaths occurred during sex. All cases of sexual death were men of an average age of 61.3 years, except for 2 women. Annual cases of sudden cardiovascular deaths during sex is estimated to be 0.2 to 100,000 men. The risk for women is lower by a factor of 12. We'll be talking about deaths during sex on Health Matters today. My name is Faye Shara Omonori. With me in the studios is Dr. Joel Akande, a fertility doctor and gynecologist here in Akure. Doctor, we know that sex is between an adult male and female, and it is supposed to be pleasurable or something that is done for fun. But how come that there are deaths related to sex? What do you think is responsible?
I'm pleased to be here. Let's begin with the understanding of what happens during sex before we answer the question of fatalities. Two consensuous people who consent to having sexual intercourse, there is an arouser. First, there is a desire. Second, there is an arouser. Third, there is trusting, and then there's climaxing, and there's a resolution. If I were to draw it in a graph, it would be like a curve that rises and then reaches a plateau and then comes down gradually. The plateau, at the point in which it is peak, is as it is climbing, is the trusting, and then as it plateaus, then it resolves. Now, all of those are monitored. All of those are given rise to by hormones, by different hormones from the brain, and particularly oxytocin, and all sorts of other hormones that are involved. And energies are charged and increased. Let me also state that during a given sexual intercourse that lasts about 30 minutes, 10% of the daily energy requirement of the individual, and for women, your daily energy requirement is about 1,900 kilocalories. For men, it's about 2,300 kilocalories. So in a given sexual experience, 10% of that will be expended, will be used, and that is a lot of energy being discharged. Therefore, the body goes through a lot of changes during those given 30 minutes interval, and it can be longer. In some people, it can be shorter, it can be longer, it can go to 1 hour, it can go to 2 hours in some individuals. So if you put all of this in perspective, we can begin to see why there is a fatality during sexual intercourse. Now, to the question. If the individuals have background histories of abnormalities, all sorts of things goes in, especially of the heart, then you have a situation where sex could become very fatal. Now, in terms of if women are involved or not, a lot of research has gone in around the world. It's not just where you mentioned in Germany, in UK, in Singapore, in America, in Nigeria, a lot of reports. And we discovered that at least in the order of 1 in 3 involve women who dies during sexual intercourse. So again, majority, about 2/3, are men, and we'll see as we go along. Hopefully, we'll be able to give reasons why these things happen.
All right, thank you very much, Doctor, for that. Let's backtrack a little. You said for some it could be lesser than 30 minutes, while for others it could be as long as 2 hours. But do you not think, in your own opinion, especially as a fertility doctor, that 2 hours may greatly increase the chances of a person dying during sex?
Absolutely. You have to put it in the context that some people use drugs, cocaine for example, to enhance sexual experience. Some people use not necessarily illegal drugs like sildenafil, popularly known by a brand name of Viagra, but generally in chemical name it's called sildenafil, and there are other drugs similarly that enhances your ability to have sex. Therefore, these drugs can, and other herbs I have to mention.
Yes,
herbs.
herbs.
These drugs and herbs can lengthen the experience of sex beyond what is physiologically or normally will be expected of the individual. Therefore, the person is partly responsible, in some degrees, partly responsible for the experience that he has.
Okay, for the fatality, if you will.
I will see as we.
Okay, another thing I would like to know is that let's look, for example, I think it's generally in sexual activity said that men expend more energy, especially in a climate where women are preconditioned to keep it easy. So could this be the reason why there are more men seen to be dying from sexual activities than women?
In part, again, if you look at, and I will give some reasons why men die now. In part, if you look at the way men and women are built,
okay,
the muscular weight, the structure of men is at least about 15% more than men, more than women.
Okay.
As a result, you will have, and of course, men also eat more to sustain this energy requirement.
Yes.
So, and just like you said, it is the man who does most of the work. In some cases.
Yes, in some cases.
And most of the work during sex, and therefore he expended more energy, and as a result, he loses more energy, and then is likely to die more.
Okay.
However, women also dies. I have to,
of course,
say that there are other reasons which include cardiomyopathies. The heart had already suffered or is already suffering from abnormalities that will otherwise the individual may not have known that he's suffering from cardiomyopathies. Arrhythmia, for example, is the commonest cause. About half of, and the heart just goes flips and cannot control it is beating anymore.
Okay.
And the brain loses conduct of with the heart, loses energy, loses blood, loses oxygen.
Wow.
And then in some cases there could be dissection. In other words, the vessels split in the heart, in the brain, in the body, other parts of the body just splits, and the individual loses a considerable amount of blood and then perishes.
Okay, like in layman's terms, the vessels can burst.
It can burst.
Okay.
Because you see, as the individual jerks during before resolution, jerks, then he loses. He's coming up with considerable amount of energy, and those vessels builds up heavily and then burst. To understand it, you need to overfill a balloon.
Okay.
With air or water.
That can explain
Gets
it
to
better.
capacity. Our vessels are like your pipes, your common pipes at home. It gets to a point in which if the thrust of water coming into that pipe is too much, the water will burst.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about the symptoms, or let's look at what you think you can feel as an individual to make you know that okay, probably you are not climaxing, but you are really going. Yes, that's the word.
The partner should. You see, everyone who engages in sex is in a state of euphoria.
Okay.
You loses yourself. You are in a different world, and in that case, you may not be in position to talk.
Okay.
Quite often, in fact, there is no human activity in which the individual concentrates more than in sex. There is none. Any distraction, phone rings, somebody knocks, the sex will finish, will end. There's a call, a child cries, there's a pain somewhere. So the individual concentrates intensely
in the activity. Yes.
So it behoves on the partner, perhaps, who will notice that this person is not in the normal state that it should be. So, on the other hand, if the individual is experiencing discomfort or pain or other issues, you should be able to say it.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. There's still definitely more to talk about on why men and women also die during sex. But let's go for a quick break. And when we come back, Dr. Joel Akande will still be in the studios to delve deeper with us. Don't go away. Yes, still on to Health Matters, the TV health program on OSRC television. We have Dr. Joel Akande, fertility doctor and gynecologist in the studios, to talk to us about why men and women die during sex. There has been so many misconceptions about it, especially for men. You hear things like, especially in Yoruba land where we are, you hear things like it is magun, especially with something called penis captivus, if you will. And there are a lot of things where you hear a man dies and they say it is magun. The person climbed magun because that is what killed the person. Are there a certain outer of truth to this, or they are just myths or superstitions?
Well, largely, let me say that the Yoruba people, or Nigerians for that matter, are not the only one that experiences fatalities during sex. Certainly, at the introduction, the figures we quoted were not in Nigeria. They were not made in Nigeria. So I doubt, and having lived in Europe, I doubt if there's anything called magun in Germany or Singapore or USA, where a lot of these studies had been conducted. So that kind of knocks off the theory or believes that magun is responsible for the death.
Okay.
Magun may exist on its own right, but the evidence, scientific evidence, points us to the fact that there is some physiological abnormalities that is going on, that is in place. Now, one thing is clear from all the studies, including that of Nigeria. One thing is clear, that men who goes out of their matrimonial home to have sex seems to also have an increased rate of dying during sexual attack.
And why is this so?
Why is that so? Perhaps it's due to fear, it's due to increased anxiety, and then the fear of being caught. And it's just not in Nigeria. The data is very clear. In USA, in UK, in Asia, it tends to be the case that extramarital affairs tends to increase fatalities. Or
could it be that these men that are otherwise older maybe are taking drugs to enhance their performance?
Again, the older has to be taken in context.
Yes.
0.2%, that is 2 in every 1,000, are the ones that are 60 and above.
Wow.
Now, the average men dying of sexual fatality is 38. So these are young people, but again, they may be experimenting with drugs. They may be experimenting with sexual enhancer as well as cocaine and all the other things that, including herbs, that they may have been contributing.
Okay, let's come back to this magun thing, especially penis captivus. If it happens during sex, the common belief is that it is magun. And you hear a lot of embarrassment that happens with this particular couple, especially if they are probably they have to be caught in the act. What do you think is responsible for penis captivus?
I think it's more of fear.
Okay, and what exactly is it for the layman at home?
If it's a situation in which, if I get the Latin word right, it's a situation in which the penis
is captured in the woman's body.
It's captured in the woman's body, and at the same time, there could be anatomical issues, in other words, structural issues, in which the muscles of the vagina area of the woman kind of clasp the penis. On one part, the penis may be what we call penile-vaginal disproportion. The penis may be too large for
the vagina, yes,
and it gets stuck. On the other hand, there could be a sustained erection in which the penis refuses to relax.
Okay.
And the whole experience, the muscles of the woman refuses to relax, the man refuses to relax, and they are stuck.
Yes, I think especially if it's extramarital, like you said, yes, their anxiety sets in. And what do you think can be done in this case before we move on to other things?
Separating them, that may involve hospitalization
okay.
of doctors. The penis has to be relaxed. It has to soften for it to be able to fall back into itself. And I believe it is due to this sustained erection that has allowed it to get stuck, and the disproportion, the sizes are out of order. So we need to relax the muscles or the muscles of either of them to allow the penis to come out.
Can penis captivus be fatal?
It can be fatal. If it's sustained for too long, it will be fatal. It can be fatal because the man is losing energy. They are tired. There's a limit to human endeavor.
Yes.
So they are tired. They want to get over with it. They don't want to be caught. We all have emotions as human beings, so we don't want to be caught. And of course, it's totally water is sweet, but you've forgotten that at the end of it is very dangerous. So now it's very dangerous for the man, and especially, and then of course the woman, because of exhaustion.
Okay, let's consider another factor. There's also cases where we have maybe extreme orgasm. Do you think that this can also lead to death?
Certainly. It's one of the, in fact, it's a major cause.
Okay.
Because there is it's a second issue. It's a matter of seconds that orgasm occurs. When it is sustained, the heart cannot take that. As I said earlier, the body loses about 10% of its energy during sexual encounter. And when you continue to lose your energy, and powerful energy, and you are continuing to loosen them, then the body will get so much exhausted and the heart will stop to beat.
Okay, so that means apart from extreme orgasm, one should also be careful of prolonged sexual activity.
Certainly. So it's advisable there is a limit to which you can go. You cannot have sex for 2 hours or 3 hours and expect to be a normal person, especially if you're having sex regularly. Therefore, there is a reasonability limit to our behavior as human beings. If you use the enhancer, you experience or expect the consequences of prolonged sex. Okay,
all right. Thank you very much. There's also one point to consider on a lighter note. Let's talk about people who engage in extremities in sexual activities. We have people having sex in the car in uncomfortable positions. Do you think that this can also be fatal or lead to death?
It can, indeed, evidence is there, scientific evidence and studies is there that is fatal. It could be fatal. The reason is that you wind up, you see, sex is supposed to be private and in secret and confidential and this. And you don't expect, like I said, is people focus absolutely and concentrate on it. You don't want anybody to come and knock on your door.
Or a distraction.
Or distract you. So it's a focused exercise. Now, when you're having sex, quite often you are in car, you don't want anybody to hear you or see you. So in effect, you are winding up, you are closing your windows and all those things. Of course, when you don't have oxygen and you are losing energy, you need oxygen to replenish. You are losing energy. Your environment is stuffy, full of carbon dioxide. If the car is on and you are unlucky enough to have carbon monoxide, which is what comes out of your exhaust.
Yes.
So when you have carbon monoxide coming back to that car, you are self-poisoning. In fact, it's effectively a suicide mission.
Okay, I think we've seen cases of that in the news as well.
It's a suicide mission.
Yes. Okay, let's talk about people also having sex in the bathroom.
Now, yes, but remember that a lot of our homes is either one on a concrete or on tiles.
Yes.
If you fall on a tile, chances are that you may die. You break your head and you lose blood in the brain and you die. You just die, especially if it's a sharp fall, in which it falls on the sharp end. Even if it's not the sharp end of the tires, if it's a flat thing and it's head first, then there's a great chance that the individual may die because it falls on a hard surface. So
wow.
The additional factor to remember is that there's water.
Okay, we may make the floor slippery.
It's slippery.
Yes.
So in the course of the struggles, you fall upon the water and upon the tires and then perish.
Okay, on a lighter note, at least the person died having fun, right? Okay, it's as serious as anything because we don't pray to die doing what we are supposed to do, especially as consenting adults, like you said.
But there's one thing I always say on a lighter note, there are some lower animals, there are ants and sea animals that as soon as the sex is finished, the female kills the male.
Wow. Okay, so it could just be like that too. Okay.
So the male is aware that this is my last time on earth.
Wow. Okay, I think we've learned so much on what to do and on how people can die, but what to do to prevent it is what we need to quickly take a look at now.
The first thing is know thyself, know yourself.
Okay.
If you are not well, you are feeling that you are not there, either you suffer from diseases one way or the other, get checked first. Everyone is not the same. Check yourself first. Then two, if you are reach certain age, you are no longer a 22, 23 or 30-year-old. You cannot do that experience. To use drugs to enhance, to get you back to nostalgia that you had when you were 30 or 25 is a suicide mission. Then also it goes without saying that infidelity amounts to wanting to die if you are a man. So, of course, using drugs as an enhancer is also a risk factor. There are some safe drugs that can be used that my own side we do prescribe that are relatively well tested, but again, it has to be consciously within the limits of its prescription.
Okay.
So, taking a longer, extending the privilege that the doctor has given, going over the counter, the doctor is no longer responsible for your behavior.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Joel Akande. He's a fertility doctor and gynecologist here in Akure, and he has told us so much about why men and, yes, certainly women die during sex. I hope we've taken one or two away to take away anxiety, especially over-excitement, to know thyself, just like the good doctor has said, to not overstep your boundary, to know your limits, especially as it has to do with your health. Do join us again same time next week on Health Matters, where we bring you more salient issues as regards our health. My name is Faye Shara Omonori, and it's bye for now.